Texas passed a law that students can only participate in the sport that's listed on the birth certificate. Okay. Unless you have an updated birth certificate.
So if we had an updated birth certificate and because we're able to do that in New Jersey and I think also in Virginia, I believe you can put even X on the birth certificate. Would that be fine?
They said birth certificate. They didn't say original or update. I mean,
okay.
They find the loopholes and everything. I tell people all the time, I will go to jail for saving a child's life. I guess no conservative kids come out gay.
You're no problem defending your kids no matter what?
No.
Okay.
Like, seriously, how would that look on the news? LGBTQ advocate arrested for protecting a child.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hi, guys. Welcome back to the channel. So we know, despite executive orders, despite the Trump administration declaring that there are only two sexes, male and female, we have school administrators that are determined to override these federal laws, to override these executive orders. Determined. And are even coaching parents on how to sneak in their trans kids into women's and girls' sports. We just saw an example there in Dallas. There was a LGBTQ advocate, a school administrator who was employed to advocate for LGBTQ kids. And she said she's willing to go to jail to save a kid, as she puts it. And she was coaching this undercover reporter who was posing as a parent of a trans kid. She was coaching this parent, advising this parent on how she can get her son, who identifies as a girl, to compete in girls' sports. Just update the birth certificate. Now, we know that the Trump administration took away the option of putting X on your passport or putting a marker that doesn't fall in line with your biological sex. We've had activists and trans people saying that my passport says M on it now, even though I identify as female. Not happy about it.
So I'm sure most of us remember on, I think, the first day of Trump's presidency, he signed an executive order to declare only two genders recognized by the state, male and female, assigned at birth. And as a result of this, which I wrote down because I want to get it right, the Bureau of Consular Affairs has frozen passport applications requesting a gender marker change or renewals or new applications with a gender marker differing from an applicant's gender assigned at birth. So my initial reaction to this, because our president, is a lot of talk, was like, I'll believe it when I see it. And today, I saw it on my new passport mail. So, now to specify, my gender markers were first changed in my teens when I first got my driver's license, and then passports following. All have been female since then. Hasn't really been a problem. However, last year when I was filming in Barcelona, our car got broken into and my bag got stolen, and inside of that was my passport, which was supposed to last me up until my 30s. And so I got an emergency passport, which was very simple at the time. It's basically just a copy of my old passport, but temporary and only supposed to be used within the year. So as soon as I got back to the States, I had to get this fixed and get it replaced with a real proper passport, which I went to the Federal Passport Agency today in LA and did. I've had to do this one time before. No part of the process was different. I filled everything out just like I normally would. I put female. And when it was picked up today and I opened it up, they had changed the marker to male.
But their birth certificate, which isn't a federally issued document, it's determined by state, their birth certificate can still have the female sex marker on it, even though they were born male and are still male and always will be male. They can have a female marker on it.
I want to make this video to document how universities were responding to the recent executive order and show that they're not looking at federal documents, they're not looking at my passport or my birth certificate, they're not even simply calling me before banning me. They are hearing word that I was assigned male at birth, and that is enough for them to ban any athlete they want to.
So it's possible for these male athletes to have documentation that says they're female. It's still possible, despite the executive orders, the Trump administration banning such a thing occurring on people's passports. A birth certificate can still say one thing. And of course, we have people wondering, well, does this actually happen? Is this actually going to be a thing where male athletes sneak in and masquerade as females? Is that really going to happen? Are they really going to get to the point where they can compete in girls' sports despite being male? The answer is yes. And we have an example of that. So we need sex screening. A woman's sports watchdog called for mandatory sex screening after male student conceals sex to join a girls' softball team. This is happening as we speak. Despite executive orders, despite federal law banning such a thing occurring. Redux has learned that a trans-identified male high school student has been quietly participating in girls' sports, earning accolades intended for young female athletes. Charlie Rothenberger was transitioned by his parents at an extremely early age and is now drawing ire from his female teammates as more are becoming aware that he is biologically male. Can you imagine girls going to high school have to wonder if they're competing against a male athlete? Is this something that we ever had to worry about when we were in school? People who grew up in the 90s, for example, or the early 2000s, did you have to worry about competing against somebody who's male, masquerading as a woman, as a girl? This is unfathomable to me. Turns out this person is male, but is marked down on school records as being female. And there's people who think this is okay because of early transitioning before puberty. I call that a tragedy, but apparently that makes it okay. And even with the early transitioning, going on puberty blockers and all sorts of medication, this person still stands out enough for the female athletes to question whether this person is male or female. That says a lot. There goes your argument about people like this not having an advantage, that if it happens pre-puberty, then it's okay. And the sporting bodies that have that stipulation, they need to rethink that policy. Because clearly there are male athletes who were put on medication at a very young age who are going to think it's okay to compete against women and girls now. So Rothenberger is a 17-year-old student at Camlin Park High School in Camlin, Minnesota. Of course, Minnesota. He currently plays as a starting pitcher for his girls' high school first pitch team, where he has been credited for helping the school dominate softball competitions. Oh, coincidence? Earlier this month, the first game of the new softball season kicked off against the Minnesota State champions, Rogers High School. Rothenberger, who stands 6 feet tall, was able to easily lead Champlin to victory against the defending champions with a shutout via 14 strikeouts and a double base hit of his own. So the coach was interviewed last year and basically said that this athlete just happens to be great at mixing different speeds of the ball and keeping the other team off balanced. That was the coach's explanation as to why this person performed so well. And this person, Rothenberger, has been said to be an example of the next generation of softball players, which is very concerning, actually, because is this where women's sports is going? Male athletes sneaking their way in and being elevated as an example of a phenomenal female athlete? Is this where it's going? Is this the standard that female athletes have to strive to, even though they can never be male? And they can never have the advantages that male athletes have. Advantages that don't go away simply because of medications and how early they transitioned, by the way.
We're great in the circle. Our pitchers do a phenomenal job. We have 2 young pitchers, Ava Abramson and Marissa Rothenberger, and they've been doing a phenomenal job. They keep us in every game, and then we string hits together. Chaska's a top 10 team. I mean, they've been in it all year, you know, and you save this game to the end, you know, as a prep to go into sections. So to win this and be on a high going into sections is huge.
And if you're going to say that it's great for the team because the team's going to win, it's great for the female athletes to have somebody like Rothenberger on their team, apparently. The reality is this person is creating a new standard for female athletes. It's very deceptive and it's very destructive to women's sports. This should not be allowed. It isn't allowed. But there are school administrators, there are sporting bodies that are determined to allow it to continue to go on. And that's very, very concerning. That's very disappointing. And it's a slap in the face to women and girls. Long term, this is not the way to go. Well, women's sports is no longer going to be women's sports. This is what we were concerned about. And this is happening, apparently, under our very noses. And of course, it's the parents who tell their kids that they're in the wrong body. It's the doctors who co-sign this, who prescribe the medications and put these children on medications that ensure that they don't develop properly into who they should be. The adults who have allowed male athletes to sneak into women's sports, those are the ones who need to be held accountable for what they have done, for what they have done to these kids, who they have lied to and told that they can change their sex, and the adults who allow this injustice against girls to continue because of their ideology. So Rothenberger plays softball at an elite level, playing for Midwest Speed Softball. This person travels around the country playing softball and also attained an All-State award last season due to his pitching. This was from watching college pitchers and trying to emulate them to now striving to become one. I am passionate in doing what it takes to be the best I can be. That also applies to female athletes as well. They strive to be the best they can be, but something they will never be is male. Something they will never possess are the advantages that male athletes have over female athletes. Through no fault of their own, just simply because they are female. They can be the best of the best, but then come up against somebody who's claiming to be the same but isn't. Advantages exist, but there are advantages that exist within the same category because somebody's just a better athlete, not because somebody's male. And we know that male athletes can hit harder, can jump higher, have greater grip strength, all of which still exist even when they transition before puberty.
And the data irrefutably shows that biological males are 10 to 30% stronger, faster, have better endurance, better aerobic capacity across the board.
Even if, like this child who went through the puberty blockers and takes estrogen, has been doing that since elementary school.
Again, if we defer to the studies, and I sent several to your producers, which maybe they can put on the homepage, they show that even on puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones, the decrease in physical performance is, quote, trivial. That's what the data says. And to give you an example, if you look at a biological male, transgender female, with grip strength, in conjunction with a biological female transgender male, okay, so both of them are on blockers and cross-sex hormones. The transgender female, the biological male's grip strength, was 17% greater than the female on testosterone and puberty blockers.
Yeah, and this, when you talk about contact sports, you talk about safety, you talk about volleyball, you talk about soccer. I mean, this is out of control.
So last year, Rothenberger was named Player of the Month by the Heart of America Elite Fast Pitch. And this person has aspirations to play Division I softball in college. No doubt, this male athlete is going to get a female scholarship. This male athlete is going to take the place of a female athlete. So this person has never publicly claimed to identify as being transgender. But Redux have obtained documents where this person's mother, Heather Rothenberger, applied to have the birth certificate changed to be marked as female. Rothenberger was issued a new birth certificate showing that he was born female and altering his name from Charlie Dean to Marissa. Minnesota is one of the many states where altered birth certificates do not need to signify that the original document was altered. Wow. So you can really legally be classed as female if you were born male in some states. And people may very well be none the wiser. There's nothing to say that you were actually born male. Now, when it comes to passports, that's a different thing. But guys, the females on Rothenberger's team, the girls who competed alongside this person, they are speaking out. They have become aware that this person is in fact male. And they spoke to Redux anonymously, one in particular. She said the following. And thank you for this young lady for speaking out. It takes a lot of courage to do so. She said, we were never really that close because I never had anything in common with him. I never thought he was a boy. But after finding out he was a boy and then looking back on a lot of things I wouldn't have looked at before, it definitely shows he is a boy. And I felt dumb for missing the clues. Clearly, you're not dumb. You were lied to, you were deceived. And again, I really hate that these young girls are put in this position. They're not told, that these people are male. They could be sharing a locker room with this person, sharing a hotel room even, while traveling on the road. The schools allow it. Administrators allow it. Don't even give these girls the courtesy to tell them to obtain their consent. Their consent doesn't matter to the adults who are involved in all of this. And that is unacceptable. So she said she initially discovered his true identity in July 2024 during the 2023-24 season, when no one was really talking about it. But added, by November that year, lots of people from the softball community found out the truth and were openly talking about it. So it has been confirmed, of course, that this person does use the female bathrooms. This person, while traveling on the road with the rest of the team, shares rooms with the girls. None of the girls he shared facilities or bedrooms with were aware that he is male. She said, looking back now, it disgusts me and it's just scary. Now, you may think that it doesn't matter because the person may be considered passing. But the fact is, these girls were sharing a room with somebody who was male and they weren't even informed. They weren't even asked if they were okay with it. Now they're finding out after the fact that they were undressing in front of this person, that they were sharing a room with this person. Even if this person has transitioned, quote unquote, they still have a right to know. And of course, they did recognize this person's athletic ability. It stood out from the female athletes. This is not out of the ordinary. Just because a person transitions before puberty, it doesn't mean that these differences will not be evident. It doesn't mean that there won't be differences in terms of athletic performance. The players described Rothenberger's athletic performance compared to the other girls as being completely unreal, saying he is able to do so much more than girls who train with the exact same coaches. She said, he is able to be relied on as a pitcher and took opportunities away from girls who deserved them most. She said she felt uncomfortable and upset that they're allowing males to play on the same team as girls. She said she's basically been given the message that as a girl, I just have to learn to accept that men can take advantage of you even if they just want to identify as a female. She is frustrated and hurt by the whole ordeal. Many players and I work so hard to achieve something through this sport, and we find it unfair that our spot can be stolen from us. This shouldn't be allowed, and boys can stay in boys' sports and leave us girls alone. I shouldn't have to learn this lesson that girls don't matter, or that we need to just be silent while we lose out so a boy feels okay. I mean, that says it all. And whether you are all for this or not, the feelings of the female athletes are undeniable, and there's no justification for ignoring how these female athletes feel, or telling them that their feelings are actually bigotry, or they have no right to feel uncomfortable. There's no justification for that whatsoever. And don't tell me that you're looking out for girls or looking out for women when you go along with this sort of thing and tell these girls that they don't have any right to feel the way they feel. Frustrated and hurt is how these female athletes feel. She's not just speaking for herself. Icons have pointed out that this is a real concern, a legitimate concern. They're calling it a new wave of male athletes who were socially and medically transitioned as young boys, entering into women's sports, sneaking their way in. Some of them may have had their birth records falsified at an extremely early age. There may be no public record of their true sex, making it possible for them to participate in women's sports virtually undetected and beyond the reach of many of the current policies intended to protect women's sports. The only way for these policies to be foolproof is for mandatory gender tests to be incorporated into the policies. That's the only way to make these policies foolproof. Rothenberger is just one example of many trans-identified males who have managed to slip under the radar in women's sports after transitioning at a young age, with legal records of their true identity often hidden away. And this is why I'm against these policies that say that if they transition before puberty, it's okay. There are sporting policies that still stipulate that you cannot participate in women's sports if you transitioned after puberty. I've never been okay with that. That has never sat well with me. Number one, it encourages these parents, these so-called parents, to transition their children at a younger age. Not only are they told to transition so that the kid can be passing, but now they're going to have another incentive of these kids participating in sports, even if they're not even that great at sports. But simply because they are males, more than likely they will excel in sports if they train and pick up, the skills that are required. More than likely they will excel because they're participating in the wrong category. They're participating in the women's category despite being male. And having a male body, even though they've transitioned early, they still have a male body and all the advantages that come with that. With legal records of their true identity often hidden away. Tate Dragasset, a 17-year-old volleyball player, also obtained a women's scholarship back in 2023. Remember that? This person transitioned before puberty. This person was on course to become the first known male recipient of a women's Division I athletic scholarship after having falsified his identity from the age of 6. Dragasset's mother emailed Redux and stated that the University of Washington had informed them that they would no longer honor their verbal commitment to him. So the person ended up losing this scholarship after Redux basically exposed everything, that the University of Washington were going to give a scholarship to a male athlete, a women's scholarship. So this is absolutely an issue. It does happen and it is happening. And the only way around it are the mandatory gender tests, because documents can be falsified pretty easily depending on the state that you're in. And girls and women deserve better than that. Title IX says that they should be given their own sports, their own opportunities, and not be discriminated against on the basis of sex. But when you allow male athletes to infiltrate women's sports, and yes, even just one can disenfranchise multiple female athletes. When you allow this, you are directly allowing girls to be discriminated against. You are allowing girls to be disenfranchised, and you are taking away opportunities from these girls. And they deserve better than that. It's unacceptable. Kim Jones of Icons put it this way, and I agree with her 100%. It makes these young girls learn early in life that it is acceptable for them to be abused and taken advantage of by boys, so long as everyone looks the other way, and it's hidden to a certain level of satisfaction. These girls need to know that they are important enough to be treated fairly in public while they play sports, as well as in private, and that protection is incumbent upon leadership in sports and in schools to ensure. We are seeing the first drips through the faucet of young boys who are subjected to gender ideology from a really young age, And there are thousands more of these boys out there now who are even younger and will impact girls' sports for the next decade in increasing numbers. Policymakers need to think beyond men like Leah Thomas. Looking at birth certificates and enrollment history is not enough. We need sex screening so that girls and women aren't left with an even more difficult situation in 10 years. Sex is not private information and can be screened through already universally required pre-participation physicals, which include medical history or a simple cheek swab. These athletes have to go through screenings anyway. Please, for the sake of female athletes, for the future of female athletes in this country, incorporate cheek swabs as part of that screening process. It is an absolute must. So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe. Take care of yourselves, and God willing, I will see you in the next video.